Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of AoS Close-Ups. This week we're going to take a look at the core of Khorne, the Blood Warriors. We'll take a look at their backstory, their rules, and what roles they play on the tabletop. While Blood Reavers make up the masses of the Bloodbound, the Blood Warriors form the backbone, hacking their way through the weak to get to the enemy's most formidable of foes. Once in the grips of battle, a Blood Warrior's furious wrath will see the warrior through the most horrific of wounds, and even when the mortal blow is finally struck, the warrior will exert one last breath to launch a final, all-out assault at his killer. Blood Warriors are born from battle, champions culled from the hordes of Khorne. When a warrior has wrought ample death through a multitude of fierce battles and he is covered head to toe in the blood of foe and ally alike, Khorne will look down upon his devotee to claim him as his own through this red baptism. It is said that after a warrior has been claimed by the red baptism, that the blood that drenches these killers hardens and transforms into brass and iron. Though it is usually a gift reserved to only his most ardent followers, Khorne has laid claim to many champions that have never worshipped him, and even some who have sought to defy him. Nevertheless, should any warrior prove themselves in battle and let rage and bloodlust consume their mind, Khorne will seize those souls as his own and forever cloud those warriors' minds with a thirst to butcher. Most Blood Warriors enter into battle wielding a pair of heavy-bladed axes, emulating whirlwinds of death, chopping away limbs, delivering decapitating blows, and disemboweling enemies in violent bursts of offense. While other Blood Warriors are armed with a gore axe clenched in one hand, while in the other paring away enemy attacks with a small bladed shield known as a gore fist. Those unfortunate warriors who think this a mere defensive tool have no time to regret this oversight, as each abrupt parry turns into a lightning-fast counterblow that sees these devious devices slice throats and slash arteries. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the rules, and as I mentioned before in the background section, Blood Warriors have two weapon options. The first is that they can wield dual gore axes, and the second is that they can take a gore axe and a gore fist. From there, you have another weapon option. 1 in every 10 Blood Warriors can wield a gore glaive, and actually this is an interesting weapon option because the interpretation of it has been debatable. Now, there are some people that argue that you need full increments of 10 to take the gore glaive. This essentially means that every 10th warrior has one. This also means that units of 9 or less can't have one at all. However, another interpretation believes you can take one gore glaive for every increment of up to 10 models in a unit. Now, in practice, this means a player is counting the first model as their gore glaive warrior, then kind of pays a tax up to the next 9, all having the same stock loadout. This, of course, has the result of having units of 5 to 9 being able to take a gore glaive, but it also has the effect of a unit of 11 being able to take 2. Now, I don't think there's an obvious answer right now for this interpretation dispute. I would follow the first interpretation, and let me tell you why. Now, if I could somehow break my mind apart and send them down different parallel world paths, I can imagine two scenarios in which I follow both interpretations and then later discover that one was incorrect. Say by GW just outright saying this is the correct one and you were wrong all along. Now, the more conservative interpretation, which I believe is the first one, means that if I end up being wrong, the worst outcome is that I was handicapping myself when I didn't have to. Now, if I take the more broader interpretation, the second one, and I'm later proven wrong, I end up creating a situation in which I had an unfair advantage against my opponent. So when I have these two options of the worst case scenario and it comes to playing a game, my philosophy is it's best to disadvantage yourself than your opponents. However, this is just my view at what I think would be the best way to build an army list, and if my opponent just thinks they're absolutely right about it, I'm not going to be stubborn and be like, no, you have to play my way. So I'm for allowing people just to play the way they think it's interpreted, but as far as how I'm going to play it and how I'm going to build my armies around, I'm just going to perhaps disadvantage myself until proven otherwise. Now, as far as upgrades are concerned, the champion has an extra attack, and the icon bearer boosts the bravery by 1, bringing the unit from 6 to 7, which is a solid bravery stat for a 2-wound model. Blood Warriors have a standard move rate of 5 inches, have a great armor save of a 4-up, and when we look at the weapons, the Gorax has a 1-inch range, hits on 3s, wounds on 4s with no rend, and only doing 1 damage. Plus, if you're taking the dual Gorax option, the Blood Warriors get that obligatory reroll 1's ability. Overall though, I think Blood Warriors have the kind of stats that set the bar that you measure everything else against. They have solid stats that have plenty of room to benefit from any synergies built into your army. Now, the Goreglaive gives the unit that added punch to help against units that they might otherwise evenly trade with. It wounds better out of 3, comes with a 1 rend, and does an impressive 2 damage, and I think this is an important option when you find yourself facing against Stormcast Eternal units and other Slaves to Darkness. If you decide to arm your Blood Warriors like the ones in the starter box with a Gore Axe and Gore Fist, then you get to change your defense into an offense. For each successful armor save, you can roll a die, and any 6s will inflict a mortal wound on the attacking unit as long as the attacking unit is within 1 inch of the Blood Warrior. Now, take special note that any shooting attacks that are made by a unit within an inch of the Blood Warriors will also trigger this ability. Finally, all Blood Warriors get the No Respite ability, which allows slain models to immediately pile in and make all of their close combat attacks. Now, they have to be killed in the combat phase. Unlike the Goreglaive rule, a Blood Warrior unit that's in combat range but killed by a shooting attack will just keel over and die immediately. So, with the rules covered, let's talk about getting the most out of the Blood Warriors on the tabletop. Now, here we have a unit whose individuals will get to attack even if the opponent gets to attack first. So obviously we want to use this ability to its maximum effect, which will be having them attack twice in any given turn. So a good rule of thumb is to bring your Blood Warriors into combat in a phase where you know you will choose them first. Ensure the Blood Warriors attack first so that when your opponent retaliates, any models he kills will get to strike again, basically doubling a model's attacks. Now, if, for whatever reason, your Blood Warriors do not have a Goreglaive, try to avoid putting them against evenly sized 2-wound units with a 4-up. These matchups will quickly devolve into drawn-out wars of attrition, which may see you come out on top, but as a consequence, the unit will definitely be rendered useless from there on out. Now, luckily, I doubt you'll have this problem, as I'm sure you'll probably have a Goreglaive, or 2, in which case the Blood Warriors do match up well against Liberators. Smaller sized units of Paladins, Chaos Warriors, and many other stock troops as long as you get the first swing. Now, Blood Warriors aren't great at dislodging well-defended troops. You should definitely only send your Blood Warriors into these units after your Blood Reavers wear them down a bit. Or you can have your shock troops like the Wrathmongers charge into these stubborn units, then in the next turn retreat to preserve their strength, and then charge in your Blood Warriors as a sort of relief. These troops are just great at finishing off weakened units. Now, when it comes to weapon options, the more immediate advantage comes from the dual Gore Axe, which is straightforward. Reroll 1s. This is great since you're already hitting on 3s. The Gore Fist option gives you the ability to inflict out-of-sequence mortal wounds, which is a very powerful tool to have in any army. Unfortunately, the reality is this isn't going to be a guaranteed boon since it relies on you making armor saves. And from there it's not even over, you still have to roll 6s after that. So while the out-of-sequence wounds are great, it is a weird feature for such an obviously offensive unit to have an ability relying on a defensive armor save. But then it does present a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario for your opponent, as each armor save you make is a potential mortal wound, and each one you don't gives the potential for you to attack again. So if you do arm yourself with, or you arm your Blood Warriors with a Gore Fist, your best bet is to slam them into units who generate bucket loads of dice. This will in turn take their strength and use it against them. You will undoubtedly lose the Blood Warriors, but you will inflict a ton of damage in return. Now, finally, I do think that unsupported Blood Warriors are ill-equipped to take on a variety of characters, ranging from well-armored, accurate attacks with a rend characteristic, like the Lord Relictor, to heroes with limited attacks, but with accurate ones that do at least 2 damage, like the Seraphon Eternity Warden. And let me not even mention, of course, but I'm going to mention it anyways, they'll do poorly against any hero mounted on a monster or as a monster itself. So if you do need to send your Blood Warriors into any sort of battle against a hero, make sure you have them supported with at least attack bonuses from the Aspiring Deathbringer, for example, or even the Blood Secretor. I don't think they'll be good at attacking those hero-mounted monsters, but if you're going to do it, at least do it in style, I guess. And that will conclude this episode of AoS Close-Ups. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to comment below about what unit you'd like to see next, and thank you for watching.